So right now I am right across the valley from that perch. I think it was a year ago I did that video on when I caught that tropical disease and nearly bit it from that mosquito. You can hear my token helicopter in the background, right? I am right across the valley from that spot. Now, I'll zoom in on it right here and show you where I stood when I had Lillooet Lake in the backdrop when I shared that email. And it's kind of funny because numerous people thought that was a green screen or a backdrop. I guess it's not hard to suspect that when you're not familiar with this kind of natural beauty around you daily, and perhaps you live in the city or in the prairies or something like that, right? You're back east in this non-stop hardwood forest. But anyway, just thought I'd show you guys that and see if I can squeeze out a couple more emails before the sun absolutely disappears on me. And just for novelties, just for a quick mention, right where I stand right here, a few friends of mine, they're mountain bikers, a mountain bike trail over here, and they found 18-inch barefoot man-like footprints with a 5.5 foot stride, basically 50 yards behind me. 2 summers ago, I think. They didn't think much of it. It's funny the reaction when my buddy told me, he goes, "Yeah, I seen some of those footprints in the dirt up in such and such at the bottom of the Duffy when we were mountain biking," and he goes, "Yeah." And I thought, well, I guess they are real. I'm like, "Really? That's it?" He goes, "Yeah." You think you're taking a picture? And he goes, "No, we were mountain biking. We were kind of riding along, pedal along, but whatever." Isn't that funny? But anyway, let me get on with here. Hi there, I've been watching your channel for a while now, and I always find your content intriguing. Keep up the good work. I've always loved the idea of other beings being out there, but I've also been skeptical as I am the seeing is believing type. Well, that's changing fast. A little about me and my background. I'm an EMT in California, I've worked in San Francisco, and I'm now back to my hometown near Fresno. I hunt, fish, and been camping in the Sequoia, Kings Canyon National Parks and forests all my life. And I've had a few strange encounters, but never seen anything definitive. My brother has told me he's had some rocks thrown at his hunting party when they were out in the sticks of the forest, and I've been stalked before with my party. We never figured out what it was stalking us, but we heard branches and leaves cracking maybe 25 to 30 yards away from us for a good duration of our expedition, until we decided to just call it a day. As I previously stated, I love the idea, but I was a little skeptical of these creatures being in my backyard. Well, most recently we've had a good amount of snowfall in the park, so I thought I'd take my girl and a dog for a snow day near Hume Lake Christian Camp. We went off the beaten path up some Forest Service roads until the snow was too much to drive through, and decided to hike out from there. This area of snowfall was pristine and undisturbed by both human and animal traffic. We then found a set of tracks going off into the trees that were very peculiar. Whatever it was had a good 3 to 4 foot stride. I originally thought maybe a black bear, stepped over. However, the track looked too natural and was clearly a left and a right footprint. Based on the size of the track and the stride, I estimated whatever it was to be about 9 feet in height. This unsettled me deeply, as I thought I knew every predator in our backyard. I carry everywhere and usually have a 10mm wherever I go, whenever I go up into the forest. Well, I admit I was lazy and decided to take my city carry Glock 23 40 cal as it was ready to go. Upon finding the tracks, I immediately regretted this decision. My dog sniffed the tracks and just stared intently in the direction it went. I didn't think anything of this until we found a set of deer tracks a little while later, which he promptly followed for a good while. This again unsettled me. We wrapped up our hike and headed back down the mountain. For reference, we were about 9,000 feet in elevation. Maybe I'm just jumping the gun on this track, and there's probably a good explanation from those more experienced than I, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. Maybe your viewers can. My boot print is on the left, and I'm using a US size 11. Sorry for a long email, hope it wasn't too much of a drag, but I felt context was necessary, so you know I'm not just some yahoo getting a kick. Alright, so you included these pictures. As I glance at them right now, I'll post them up, but I glanced at them, I see there's a couple weird imprints like in the heel. Looks like a hole poked in the heel. There's a hole midway up, an indent. Almost looks like a rabbit print, but is sunk in too deep compared to your footprints on the left. It's way too big. So yeah, it's definitely a peculiar track. It's unfortunate you didn't take a picture of the stride with the next track. after it too, right? Or the whole track away, but either way, I'm sure you know what you saw. You felt uneasy, and your guts never lie to you, right? It is what it is, man. And seeing is believing, but also listening to 10,000 good, hard-working, honest people's testimonies that's pretty solid too. I'm gonna get one more out. Just for the curious, right now, from what I've learned to my own, I am right in the middle of probably one of the most traffic-laden areas where these Sasquatch people cross and travel nonstop. I'm on the east side of the valley. I'm on the east side of Lillooet Lake, and just to the right of me, as crow flies, I can see it, is what's called the new site, Mount Curry Reservation Community, where there's nonstop year-round sightings. The Duffy's right behind me. There's tracks everywhere, seen throughout here, and sightings on this highway, and all the way down to the timber on my left. I'm right at ground zero, and it's getting dark. So, not that I'm looking for something to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised one of these days. And of course, there's my token helicopter sound in the background. Just have to struggle to ignore while I read out this one more email and get my butt out of here because I'm freezing my ass off. Hi Steve, I don't have a dramatic encounter to relate to you, but as I have no one else to share this with, I will here in your safe and emphatic forum. There are 4 short tales here. 1. In the mid-70s, I was a young teen. We were camping at Ascutney State Park in Vermont. We knew it very well as we camped there several times a year. We loved their lean-tos. I was born late in my parents' lives, so here I was a restless teen wanting to do something. My parents were content to stay in camp and chat and enjoy the views. So I told my mom I was going to go walk up the old logging road, which rose upwards on the mountainside. There was a steep embankment, actually a mountainside, on the left as you walked up the trail, and another drop down on the right side to a lovely babbling brook. I loved climbing around the brook area and just seeing what I could see. But the whole time I was there alone, I could not shake the feeling of somebody was watching me. I kept whipping around to look way up the mountainside to see if I could catch a glimpse of something there, but it's still quiet and empty. I heard a few birds way off, but nothing around me making any noise. I figured I was scaring the birds, chipmunks, etc. My mom used to say I had an overactive imagination, and she was probably right. But since I got in high school, I was fascinated with science and tried to look at things more rationally and logically. Yet, still, I couldn't shake the feeling something was there. Yes, I heard of Bigfoot by then, but I thought they lived in the Pacific Northwest and not in New England. Over the years, I've come to know that was my mistake. I didn't stay long on the logging road. In fact, as I left, I fought off my fear and sang that old show tune, "Whenever I feel afraid, I hold my head erect and whistle the happy tune so no one will suspect I'm afraid." Number 2, my darling uncle used to love to go hunting up in the Adirondack Mountains in New York. He had a hunting camp there with wooden cabins. He took us there once to see it, and I remember it was so far out in the woods it took forever to get there. I was about 10 at this time. He had big freezers that he powered with generators to keep his deer meat and fish until he was ready to go home again. He was telling my dad about how the black bears would tear the doors off the freezers and steal the meat, and they marveled at how strong the bears had to be to do that. I asked my uncle if Bigfoot could have done it, and he laughed and said, "No, they don't exist." My poor dear uncle. He has since passed, but I know he now knows they do in fact exist. To be fair, maybe bears could have ripped those doors off. I have no idea. I'm not a hunter, not an outdoors woman. I don't even like camping anymore. Number 3. In the mid-70s again, I was a teen. We went cross-country camping. My parents were retired by then. We had a VW camper on the pop-up roof where I slept. One night we were camping by what I think was the Snake River, somewhere along its course. There were a lot of people in the camping area, definitely a family-friendly place. It was probably about 10 p.m. We were getting settled into bed. The entire campground was quiet except for the usual night sounds, mosquitoes buzzing outside the screens, the snap of burning campfires, etc. All of a sudden, this tremendous scream of a woman tore through the campground. It was short but sustained, and I felt it go right through me. It took some seconds before I could call to my parents below me. I remember my mom said, "Pray for her." Suddenly, we could hear men milling around outside, talking, getting their guns loaded, and some set up with high beams on, trying to search for and help this poor woman. But nowadays, I know it wasn't a woman. No woman has the lung capacity to scream that loud, not that long, and over such a huge area. I've read where Sasquatches can do that, imitate human women screaming. Here we are over 40 years later, and I still think about it from time to time, even before I found your channel. Number 4. Lastly, my parents had what I believe was an encounter, and they didn't even know it. They dropped me off at school in Boston and continued up to Pillsbury State Park in New Hampshire, early 80s. They were camping at the top pond, right at the start of the waterfall area. The night seemed peaceful and they sat around the fire, talking, enjoying the experience. The sound of the waterfall as it left the upper pond to go to the lower pond was always a lovely, comforting sound. If you hiked across the top of the waterfall, which in those days we could do, you immediately enter a pretty wide hiking area. It was covered in pine needles and presented a supremely beautiful trek through the New Hampshire mountainside. By that night, they told me they heard an almighty heavy animal running along the path, or at least that's the best I could make of the commotion. They heard it start out far away, but it kept coming closer and closer to them. They retreated into the camper, not sure if whatever it was about to run across a waterfall ledge into their camp. Being a pitch dark night, no moon or anything, they couldn't see anything beyond the small perimeter of the campfire. They said all of a sudden the noise stopped dead, like someone flipped a switch and all was silent again. They thought it just stopped the other side of the waterfall. My dad thought it was a huge buck running away from something, although he couldn't see anything. That was his best guess. Again, I suggested Bigfoot, but he laughed at me. No, they don't exist. But I always thought this whole scenario was kind of suspicious, and knowing that these creatures are seen throughout the New England from time to time, I think they had a close encounter. So that's it from a lifelong suburban living lady. Not a hunter, not a hiker, nothing like that. While I'm intensely interested to hear about these creatures and all the experiences people have had with them, I hope and I pray I never get anywhere near one. Just call me Chicken. Thanks for listening, Susan. Thanks for that email, Susan. I appreciate it. I appreciate you went out of your way to type it out and email it to me and share it with everybody here. And I'm pretty sure you know what those sounds were, right? Just like the rest of us do. It is what it is. And I'll bet your dad probably knew too. He just didn't want to have to deal with it in reality, in his real life, in real life time. So however you want to describe it. But anyway, that is it for today. It's cold. Sun's going down. Maybe I'll turn the camera around, see if we can show you guys a bit of a view here. Well, it's getting dark. I was looking north. Right there is where a friend of mine ran into one of these things up hunting right there. Switch the exposure on this camera a little bit. Now swinging around looking south across a little bit of lake, and up there is where I've stood and made emails, read emails right there in the past. Well, there you go. There is a couple more, you guys. Be safe out there. And if you feel you want to, you need to get off your chest, you can email me at sharemystory@howtohunt.com or tellmystory@howtohunt.com. All right? All right. Be safe out there, everybody. On 5 grams. They're up in this real big mountain, big face, and it's open willow all around us. Well, I just shot every bullet I had, 300 yards. Obviously my gun's out. It really sucks because this gun hasn't been out in a while. That really sucks bad. Scope myself.